All Sharpton's views and opinions are his own and do not necessarily represent those of Radio 1 Incorporated, our affiliates, our subsidiaries, or our advertisers.
Sharpton, keeping it real.
The sun up, the sun down, taking that cotton.
There were many that were enslaved that left the plantation, said I'm free, and were recaptured and re-enslaved because the laws said that. Without them signing the laws that we fought for, how should we have gotten free?
Sharpton keeps it real.
Because you're raising things that you haven't thought out. There were slave rebellions that did. All right, then give me the answer. You haven't answered me yet. If you thought it out, give me the answer.
Asking the tough questions.
Well, see, here's the thing. I call him made a statement.
June the 30th. This is the last day of Black Music Month 2025. Do you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton's time. And for the next 3 hours, it's time to put aside all pretenses, deception, denial, or fronting. The time has come to keep it real on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. A very good afternoon to you all across the country. And good morning to our West Coast listeners. Welcome to those listening on Sirius XM. Channel 126, The Urban View, where talk empowers and becomes action. I'm coming to you live from our National Action Network corporate headquarters in New York, and it is Hot Button Monday. Any of you that are frequent listeners to this show know on Mondays we open up the phones and let people come out with whatever hit their minds, touch their hearts, affected their neighborhood or the nation over the weekend. All you have to do is call us at 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797, or you can go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net and go to our live stream and send me a message on our message board, and I'll be glad to read it on the air. I see Katrina Allen says, Georgia blessings to all. Send Reverend Sharpton. And Reverend Sharpton, I guess she's saying. I see, is that J.D. the poet? Good afternoon from Milwaukee, WNOV. Okay, I got you. Katrina Allen saying blessings. I saw the Mayor Rodney Jones, checked in early saying it is Hot Button Monday. So a lot to talk about today. Let me say that first and foremost, the Senate Republicans are in a sprint on President Donald Trump's, what he calls big, beautiful bill. After a weekend of real setbacks, they couldn't get certain votes. They finally had to bargain to get it out of caucus. And then the Democrats shrewdly made them have to read the whole bill. That took over 12 hours. And they're sprinting. Now, there are some senators that have expressed reluctance to sign the bill. They said, we'll let you go through the procedure, but not the bill, because the bill would give a permanent tax break to the billionaires and will cost Medicaid cuts. It's been estimated several thousand around the country would lose their health care, and it would cut SNAP, among other things. There's senators that we are told are key Republicans that have signaled they may vote against it. People are calling, and any of you listeners that want to call them, Senator Murkowski's office, Senator Collins' office. You call the general number of the Capitol and ask for Senator Murkowski's office or Senator Collins' office. The switchboard will put you through their office and say, vote no, if that's what you want to do, if that's what you stand for. Vote no on this big, beautiful bill. And a lot of civil rights groups, I know National Action Network is sending out and posting on our social media, people ought to call them so they know that there are people that have their back. Sometimes people want to do the right thing and just need a little encouragement. And I think we need to really, really bear down on this bill. In other news, the U.S. stocks are adding to their records on Monday as Wall Street nears a finish of a second straight winning month. The S&P 500 was 0.2% higher in its first trading after completing a stunning rebound from the springtime sell-off. Now, stocks got a boost after Canada said it's rescinding a planned tax on U.S. technology. And I think that that's one of the reasons, since they're doing so well down there, that we need to be down there on Wall Street August 28th by the thousands, saying, no, y'all can raise all you want. Them stocks are coming down if y'all keep messing with DEI. Democrats have failed to overturn the tax cuts in the GOP mega bill, so saying that it adds to the deficit. And any of you that watched Politics Nation with Al Sharpton over the weekend, I had Senator Welch on talking about that from Maine. No, I'm sorry, he's from Vermont. And members of Congress talking about it. Al Green was on. And let me say this. One of the things that is most troubling to me, and a lot of us missed it, I talked about it both nights this weekend, is that they are now saying, well, they're not saying, they've done it. The Homeland Security has now canceled all deportation relief for 500,000 Haitians. And one of the reasons that I'm so outraged about this president in this issue is that he is going to enforce that Haitians have to return to Haiti that is still under siege with gangs. Yet he brought in 59 white South Afrikaners saying they needed refuge because there was a genocide against whites in South Africa that nobody has been able to establish. None. This is a fantasy. And he brought 59 in, but he wants to put all these people out. Now, over the weekend, and I'm sure a lot of you may have seen it, we had the winner of the Democratic primary in New York at the Saturday rally. And I think that, he did a great job Saturday, and he won. Say what you want, he won. And I think that people ought to be dealing with how you deal with it. I said on Morning Joe this morning, if the Jewish leaders want to meet with Zoran Mandam like we did, I'm sure he'll do that. and he should. You're going to be mayor of New York, you got to be prepared to have the tough conversations. But we need to also have a tough conversations around Islamophobia. There are many Muslims that are attacked, looked down on, denied services just because they practice Islam. I'm a Christian. I can deal with Jews or Muslims, but can many of the others in the political dynamic deal with that? I'm against violence. I would not support an intifada, but I would not support what is going on to my own people. So I think that this election in New York, which has national implications because New York is a national city, is opened up this can of worms where people react to their situation. But then when we stand up, we making noise, we troublemakers. Well, I think that people voted, and one of the reasons I think this young man won is, as he said at the House of Justice Saturday, he ran on affordability. You cannot afford an apartment in New York to rent. You can't afford food. You can't afford moving around. They say it's $2.90 to get a Metro car. But if you're out in the streets homeless, you ain't got $2.90. So I think that if the Democrats come back down to the ground like this candidate did, and I've not endorsed him yet, but right is right, I think that the people will respond. It's a funny thing. I have a cell phone. I never answer it unless somebody called me. I don't walk up and down the street just saying hello. Oh, hello. Somebody thinks something wrong with me. Unless the phone rings or unless the vibrator goes off, if I have it on silence, I don't answer it. What am I saying? If you are not talking to us, if you're not relating to our issues, if you can't deal with the fact that the rent and the mortgages and the price of gas and the price of living is too high, then you're not ringing my phone. You're not talking to me. You're talking about big principles, and that's good. Save democracy. All that's good, and we should. But you look for in a mayor bread and butter issues. And that's where I think a lot is missing. Yes, I want to save democracy, but I want my grandson to be able to have his cereal in the morning, too. And the prices are going up. I want my friends to be able to not be fired because you into DEI. Ring my phone, and then I answer. As long as you're out there with all these esoteric, philosophical, pie-in-the-sky stuff, my phone ain't ringing. Let's take a break. Open up the phones. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Don't forget, it's the last day of Black Music Month for this year. Give me your favorite black artists in black music history and your favorite songs. You can talk about all the issues as well. You can combine your black music message with your message on what's going on. And we will be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back. of our ministry to entertainment. Or who can hoop the loudest? Who can run around the pulpit more? Or who got the dresses fancy and don't deal with the ministry? Jesus healed more people than he preached to. Because there is in the healing your message. They followed Jesus because he healed a woman with the issue of blood. They followed Jesus because Jesus saw a blind man named Bartimaeus. A lot of us would have dismissed him because he was a broke, poor, homeless, a blind man. How you know he was broke, Reverend? Because they say he was begging. But he understood what he was doing because he heard that Jesus was passing by. And when Jesus got close enough, he said, Jesus, son of David, come see about me. They kept telling Jesus, let's go, look, we got a schedule, we got people to see. He said it again, Jesus, son of David, come see about me. And when he did it the third time, Jesus stopped and went and healed the blind man. Now, what I get out of that scripture, Bishop Daughtry, is that the blind man told Jesus, if you are who you say you are, you're going to stop and see me. Yes, sir. And if you stop and see me, you will confirm who you are. Yeah. But when we are pastoring and leading in communities with bad health, we cannot be the followers and representatives of Jesus and walk by people that are sick and we not be part of making them well.
Rev, you know, you were right there
From the beginning.
with the stuff that
Yep.
was going on in Brooklyn at that time, at Howard Beach. You were right there.
He had in one of the early movies, he had my name. Then he put me in Malcolm, and I wasn't even old enough to know Malcolm. So we've been through it all.
For those who see Malcolm X, it's 3 hours. But fast forward to the scene with yourself, Bobby Seale.
Right. Bobby Seale, Denzel, and me.
Yeah.
Denzel was on the set.
Now, let me ask a question. What was your weight on that scene?
I brought it about 270. I was bigger then.
Yeah.
Still had the hair, man.
Yeah, you had the head on.
Yeah, it was
Denzel, yourself, and Bobby Seale.
Yeah, all in one scene.
And also, there was no cut. We went like this.
That's right.
Yeah.
Only Spike could have done that.
It's my brother right here.
My baby.
Brooklyn's in the house.
Yes, sir.
Brooklyn's in the house.
BK.
In Memphis, Tennessee. And it has been the commitment of National Action Network to always, in the month he was killed, to let them know they killed the dreamer.
Because I have a dream today.
They can't kill the dreamer.
We've reduced a lot of our ministry to entertainment. Or who can hoop the loudest? Who can run around the pulpit more? Or who got the dresses fancy and don't deal with the ministry? Jesus healed more people than he preached to. Because there is in the healing your message. They followed Jesus because he healed a woman with the issue of blood. They followed Jesus because Jesus saw a blind man named Bartimaeus. A lot of us would have dismissed him because he was a broke, poor, homeless, a blind man. How you know he was broke, Reverend? Because they say he was begging. But he understood what he was doing because he heard that Jesus was passing by. And when Jesus got close enough, he said, Jesus, son of David, come see about me. They kept telling Jesus, let's go, we got a schedule, we got people to see. He said it again, Jesus, son of David, come see about me. And when he did it the third time, Jesus stopped and went and healed the blind man. Now, what I get out of that scripture, Bishop Daughtry, is that the blind man told Jesus, if you are who you say you are, you're going to stop and see me. Yes, sir. And if you stop and see me, you will confirm who you are. Yeah. But when we are pastoring and leading in communities with bad health, we cannot be the followers and representatives of Jesus and walk by people that are sick and we not be part of making them well.
Thank you for joining us for Weekdays Live with Reverend Al Sharpton. Take the time to share this broadcast right now. Tell your friends it's time to keep it real with Reverend Al. Comment your questions now in the chat or call Reverend Al Sharpton directly on air at 877-532-5797. Now stay tuned for Reverend Al.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton. As you watch the broadcast, support National Action Network. Go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net and be involved. You can join, take your membership right online, www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Getting ready to start the program. 1-877-532-5797. Let me say by way of announcements, don't forget to watch Politics Nation with Al Sharpton, Saturday and Sunday. I know it's the 4th of July weekend, but I will be live from New Orleans Saturday night at the Essence Festival, and I'll be back in New York for the Sunday show. So I'm live. I don't take holidays off. And so watch it. We had 2 good shows this weekend. I think very good shows. Senator Welch and others right in the middle of it. Congressman Al Green, Bishop Reginald Jackson, talking about racism in the country. The head of the Legal Defense Fund, Janae Nelson, breaking down what is the legislation and the threat of it is, and breaking down what it really means with the Supreme Court decision that had come out Friday. And she broke it down like nobody else, the CEO of the Legal Defense Fund. I won't let you down if you watch us every Saturday and Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And then August 28th, the anniversary of the march on the March on Washington, to having in 63, where Dr. King gave that historic address, I Have a Dream, where we go back every week, every year, and every several years to have big commemorations. Well, the big commemoration this year is the March to Wall Street. We're not going to Washington. We're going to Wall Street, New York. That's where the money is, and that's where we want to tell the corporate world that we're holding them responsible and accountable. And, of course, you need to be here in New York. It starts at 10 in the morning from the African Burial Ground, and it's 1 mile to Wall Street. We'll have the rally. You that are interested in helping to bring people or get information, go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net or call the toll-free number 1-877-626-4651. All right, I'm going to take some calls. And, again, this is the last day of Black Music Month, and we'll talk about that as well. I think this is Gregory Jackson. He says, I'm going out on a limb here. I may be by myself, but I heard the older record by the Osmonds, and it touched my heart. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. That is deep. And well, I think that's a deep song. It's all right. It's all right. That's what song you want to talk about. I'm not telling people to limit what they want to talk about. Thank you for your call. For your text. Mayor Rodney Jones says, my daughter who just had a birthday yesterday is in Virginia with my grandson. I'm really contemplating moving closer to them. And he's talking about what I said, that I think that one of the reasons that the candidate, Mamdani has resonated. So he's talking about affordability. And people can't afford to live in New York. There's been no real freeze on anything. And he's talking about freezing the rents and dealing with the price of the transportation. And they talking about how you going to pay for it. He gave outline on Saturday at the Saturday Action Rally on how he feels he could pay for it. So he's resonating. And I try to defend, he's attacked as anti-Semitic because some statements he made. Well, he needs to be able to meet with those Jewish leaders and deal with that, but also deal with the attacks that's been made on Muslims. And there has been no denouncing. If I've said things like I said in 30 years ago, they jumped on me about stuff I'd say. Mrs. King said, watch your words. And I said, okay, if I offended people, I'm sorry. But some of them still mad at me. Some of them died 30 years ago. You can be mad enough to correct things if it needs to be corrected. But you got to be correct in raising it. All right, let's take the break. We'll be right back. I'm going right to the phones. 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton, keeping it real. Be right back. Come on.
We've reduced a lot of our ministry to entertainment. Or who can hoop the loudest? Who could run around the pulpit more? Or who got the dresses fancy and don't deal with the ministry? Jesus healed more people than he preached to. Because there is in the healing your message. They followed Jesus because he healed a woman with the issue of blood. They followed Jesus because Jesus saw a blind man named Bartimaeus. A lot of us would have dismissed him because he was a broke, poor, homeless, a blind man. How do you know he was broke, Reverend? Because they say he was begging. But he understood what he was doing because he heard that Jesus was passing by. And when Jesus got close enough, he said, Jesus, son of David, come see about me. They kept telling Jesus, let's go, look, we got a schedule, we got people to see. He said it again, Jesus, son of David, come see about me. And when he did it the third time, Jesus stopped and went and healed the blind man. Now, what I get out of that scripture, Bishop Daughtry, is that the blind man told Jesus, if you are who you say you are, you're going to stop and see me. Yes, sir. And if you stop and see me, you will confirm who you are. Yeah. But when we are pastoring and leading in communities with bad health, We cannot be the followers and representatives of Jesus and walk by people that are sick and we not be part of making them well.
Country, talking to the radio announcers, the church people and the street people, telling them that God has smiled on me. God has smiled on you if you got breath in your body. If He woke you up this morning and started you on your way. But I want to tell you some stories of people that God smiled on. We know the story of Dr. Martin Luther King, how he started way back in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, trying just to get dignity, trying to get respect. And he went all the way to the mountaintop. But he didn't forget about the brothers in the valley. He didn't forget about those trapped in the alley. And I hear Brother Martin King say, God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. Let me tell you, God has smiled on me. It's been so good to me. Then I see as Dr. King went on, another man stepping to the forefront by the name of John F. Kennedy, who rose up and said, let's not stand back. Let's not wait for a handout. Let's wait for a way out. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. He said, don't us gravel and don't us moan, because God doesn't smile on us. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. One more time. I want to say real song. I'll say God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Pick it up. God has smiled on me. He's been good. Then I went on backstage at the Apollo Theater and I saw a man come out. They call him the King of Soul, James Brown. And James Brown said, Reverend, don't you worry. I started out as a shoe shine boy. I started out as a convict. I started out uneducated. But I learned to sing my song. And I sung it all over the world. I told him it was a man's world. I told him about the big payback. I told him Papa got a brand new bag. And all over the world, they can hear my voice. But Reverend, don't you frown. Don't you bow your head. Tell him what you told me, Brother Brown. I said, now God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Yeah. He has set me free. God has smiled on me. It's been so good to me. Then I went home and I told my mother what Brown told me. And she said, son, even though we don't have much, we don't need relief. All we need is belief. And she said, he didn't tell you no lie, because the Lord will take care of you. God sits high, but He looks down low. And every time you get discouraged, every time you're burdened down, all you have to do is think of the things that God made a way for you and look toward the heavens. Lift your eyes to the hills and say, God, 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 don't smile on me. Now then, the God has smiled on me.
am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, Hot Button Monday. Let's go right back to the phone. Let's kick off the week being blessed by the birthday lady, Miss Eunice in Chicago, had her birthday over the weekend. And we want to start with you, 92 years old. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and let me tell you, you put the caramel icing on my cake yesterday. I was so excited when you said it was Reverend Sharpton on the line. I didn't answer at first. I thought it was spam call. And you made my day along with so many other wonderful people. And I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to think of little old me. And your love was felt immensely. And the pastor had just preached it's okay to cry for joy and sadness also, and I cried for joy. And I love you, Reverend Al, and I thank you for all you do.
Well, I thank you. We love you, and I told my daughter, get Miss Eunice's number. I want to surprise her. So in between my running around, I wanted to do that.
I come out of the church, and I said, wait a minute. I thought it was a family. I said, Reverend Al. But thanks again. And Reverend Sam Cooke, Stand By Me is one of my songs.
Wow.
And hold on, I'm coming. I think that's by Isaac Hayes. Am I right?
Yeah, I think so. Hold on, yeah.
I like the blues also. Farther on up the road, somebody's going to hurt you like you hurt me by Bobby Bland.
Bobby Blue Band. Wasn't nothing like Bobby Blue Band. That's right.
I tell you, boy. And Reverend, something I haven't ever said, but I just want to say it now. You know, these people running around still supporting Trump, and I have not said this before, but I've been getting some mail since 2021. First it was some old used lottery ticket, and now they're sending pictures with Trump on one side and it looked like $100 bill on the other side. Mm-hmm. They never stop. I don't need anything from Trump, and it doesn't make any sense. And it's been going on since 2021 on and off. That's crazy. Doesn't make any sense at all.
No, not at all. No, they try to market this man any way they can.
Card, this time with the picture of Trump on one side and it looks real on the other side. The card is very nice, but I really don't need that kind of mail, but people just sending it constantly on and off, and it's crazy as ever. So I just wanted to say that also. And now they're supporting Trump all the way, some of these people. I just cannot understand it for the love of me. I don't know how we're going to get out of this, but I tell you, we have some times to go through.
Yeah.
And all the years that I've worked out there, I've seen a lot of things, but I've never seen anything like this before. And I'm praying every day that things will change. And thank you so much for taking my call.
Well, thank you for your call, and thank God for you. 92 years old yesterday. Let's go to Demetrius in Cleveland, Ohio, WERE. Demetrius.
Yeah, thank you, Reverend Sharpton. Good talking to you, as usual. I just want to speak on just a couple of subjects concerning the budget that the Senate is trying to pass with Donald Trump endorsed. People have to realize it's not too late, for the Congress people and the senators, to kill the budget. So it's really imperative that people put pressure on the representatives, because Senator Hollis of North Carolina stood up against the bill for his constituents, especially the cut in Medicaid. Other senators, even Republicans, knew it's going to affect their constituents. So people in those states, we have to really get in touch with their Congress people and their senators to let them know how they feel. They have to stand by them if they decide to vote no on the bill. No matter what the President Donald Trump might issue out to those representatives, as long as they know the constituents is going to back them and they know the impact. If they Medicaid get cut, they have to come up with the money themselves to pay for their prescription drugs, pay to their visit to the doctors. So it's really a disgrace where they want to take away Medicaid, food stamp, job training programs from the public. They want to put money toward some billionaires who already have money. They have Medicaid. They have enough money, to pay their bills to buy food. And once these programs are eliminated, they're going to be real tough to start these programs again, because all the money that are used for those programs going to go toward tax breaks. for the big corporations. So people have to realize that once these programs are gone, it will be difficult to bring them back. Because even here in Cleveland, they closed one of the Planned Parenthood centers. Now, Planned Parenthood just don't do abortion like people think. They also educate people, about prevention for illnesses. They give women different type of therapy and give them information, when they take care of prenatal care before they have children. They really throwing out the baby with the bathwater. They're just emphasizing abortion, but there's a lot of other services these clinics provide to the public. And so people have to be aware of that. They might not be for abortion, but they're not aware of the other services that are provided to females, and to their children.
Yeah, there are multiple services that a lot of these clinics provide. You're right about that, and they try to just narrow down to one, but there are other, and a lot of it health related. That's what a clinic is. So you're right about that, Demetrius.
Mm-hmm. So the main I was saying, people don't give up, because even if the Senate does pass the bill, it has to go back to the Congress. So you got to still put pressure on the Congress people.
Yeah, but people are as I said at the opening call, Senator Murkowski's office or Senator Collins, they are the ones we're told are the ones that may, as Republicans in the Senate, go against it. And people can call the general number of the Capitol. I think it's 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121, and ask for Senator Murkowski's office or ask for Senator Collins' office, and just tell them that you're concerned that they stand up and vote against this bill. And believe me, I've been dealing with Washington and the Congress for a long time. And when their office says the phones are ringing off the hook, we can't even answer the phone for people calling about this, that affects a senator or congressman, because they know they got to run for re-election.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It all boils down to them want to be reelected. As long as they know that their constituents is bagging, what they're voting for, they're gonna listen to their constituents. Because like to me, this whole bill is just taking away the basics from the American people. Because American people don't want the bill. So those people who are bagging it, they're really saying, well, we don't care what the American people want. We're going to take care of the wealthy. You're going to take care of the big corporations.
That's what they're
really
saying.
Ignoring their constituents.
That is what they're saying.
I have no sympathy, not at all.
All right.
And lastly, concerning the Haitians, situation, they should never take away their protection, because the Haitians here still don't have stable jobs. They're proving that they should be in this country. And like you said before, some South Africans came here under no type of oppression, and they able to stay here. And yet, it's proof that some of the Haitian people easily left a dire situation, even some South Americans as well. So they deserve to be here, especially they prove they are protecting members of society. Thank you, Reverend Sharpton.
All right, thank you for your call. And Tanya Stovall on on our message page says, "We love you, Miss Eunice. Always happy to hear Miss Eunice, the voice of great knowledge. Hope you had a great birthday." That's wonderful. Let's go to Ray in Cincinnati, Ohio. Ray, you're keeping it real on Hot Button Monday. Is Ray there?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Rev?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for taking my call. Rev, I asked myself to ask an average Republican that voted for Trump. A lot of them were poor. Some of them are middle class. A lot of them are on Medicare and Medicaid. And then I asked myself, if I was to ask one of those, why would you vote against your own interest? Why would you vote to get rid of the very same thing that you need to survive? And if I would ask all these Republicans, because I don't want to vote for a Democrat, they vote against their own interest, Rev. And that's what, for the life of me, I don't understand. And then you got Tom Tillis. He's a senator. Now he's taking heat from his state. And so this is how much of a weasel he is. He would rather not run again than defy Trump.
Yeah.
So he's coming out now after being Trump lackey for 15 years because he's not running again. You know, as a man, Rev, a grown man in your, 70s, you know, that's sickening. It is sickening. You know, I don't understand it, but Rev, let me ask you this. You have to be on Medicare to get Medicaid, right? Am I right? Or
I think I don't know the specific qualifications, but I think that's right.
okay, so if you're on Medicare,
Wait a minute, hold 1 minute. Let me take the break. We'll pick you up on the other side, as well as others, and as well as you that writing on the message board at www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Go to live stream, and you can write a message on the message board. Or call me at 1-877-532-5797. It's Hot Button Monday. Black History Month ends today. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back.
God has smiled on me. He has set me free. God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. Let me tell you, God has smiled on me. He has set me free. God has smiled on me. He's so good to me. Let me tell you, God has smiled on me. Sometimes He has set me free. I feel so good. God has smiled on me. Oh yeah. Good to me. One more time. God has smiled on me. Every day of my life, I feel it. You give me strength and energy. God help me to see. He's been good to me. Oh yeah.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton of Brooklyn, New York. I've been traveling around the country talking to the radio announcers, the church people, and the street people, telling them that God has smiled on me. God has smiled on you if you got breath in your body. If He woke you up this morning and started you on your way. But I want to tell you some stories of people that God smiled on. We know the story of Dr. Martin Luther King, how he started way back in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, trying just to get dignity, trying to get respect. And he went all the way to the mountaintop. But he didn't forget about the brothers in the valley. He didn't forget about those trapped in the alley. And I hear Brother Martin King say, God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. Let me tell you, God has smiled on me. It's been so good to me. Then I see as Dr. King went on, another man stepped into the forefront by the name of John F. Kennedy, who rose up and said, let's not stand back. Let's not wait for a handout. Let's wait for a way out. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. He said, don't us gravel and don't us moan, because God done smile on us. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. One more time. I want to say this song. I'll say God has smiled on me. He has set And she said, son, even though we don't have much, we don't need relief. All we need is belief. And she said, he didn't tell you no lie, because the Lord will take care of you. God sits high, but he looks down low. And every time you get discouraged, every time you're burning down, all you have to do is think of the things that God made a way for you and look toward the heavens. Lift your eyes to the hills and say, God, 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 come smile on me. Now then, the God has smiled on me. He has set me free. God has smiled on me. That has been so good to me. Yes, he has. I say, God smile on me. He has set me free. And I know all over the country, smile on me. We need jobs. We need a way to make it. We need help. We need jobs. We need a way to make some money to feed our families and raise our bread. We need a way to survive, so we don't need crime as a survival kit. We just need a little bit. But don't give the hope up. Don't lose the faith, because God will smile on you. God will give you the strength. God will make a way for you. Adam Clayton Powell said, keep the faith. Keep the faith, baby. I hear Robert Kennedy saying that it's not the dream of, but it's the dream that'll live on forever. Just know that God will smile on you. Dr. King had a dream. Dr. King said, I went to the mountaintop, but I didn't stop there. I looked over and saw the promised land. I hear Brother Malcolm saying, don't sit on the stoop. Stand up and be a man. Respect yourself. Be somebody. Then I hear the brothers in the Hispanic community say, I'm going to stand up and be a man. I'm going to do the best I can. I had a reaper say, I don't care what time you come home, but just give me some respect when you get there. God has smiled on me. He has set me free. God smiled on me. You've been so good to me. Sit down. And as we move on in history, let us remember that if we look to God, God has the answer to all of our problems. God is still the same God he was years ago, and we can still make it. We can still hold on like Frederick Douglass did. We can still keep him on like Martin Luther King did. We can still ride on the way everyone that made it did. They didn't have much, but they had a whole lot of faith. They didn't have money, but they had a lot of determination. We know that God will look out for his children, that God will make a way out of no way if you just keep the faith and refuse to lose. And God will make a way, because God's children don't have color. God's children just have will. And I can still hear somewhere in my mind James Brown say, God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Let me sing it. Yeah, Lord. Yeah, Lord. Yeah,
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. This is Hot Button Monday, last day of Black Music Month, and in the first hour of the show, we talked about calling Senator Murkowski's office and Senator Collins' office and say don't vote for the bill. Those we've been told in the Civil Rights Legacy Aid organizations, those are the ones that may, if there was a campaign, may stop this big, beautiful bill as described by Donald Trump, which is in fact a big, ugly bill. We talked about that. We talked about, of course, the whole question of the decisions by the Supreme Court to, in many ways, handicap federal judges where they can only, for their districts, uphold injunctions. They cannot any longer do national injunctions, which is unbelievable, unheard of, and unthinkable. But that is what he has decided to do. The Supreme Court, that is why voting matters. And we talked about the national reaction to the election, the primary selection, voter selection of Zoran Mamdani. Mamdani was at National Action Network with us on Saturday, and people have whatever they want to say. I've not made a formal endorsement, but the man won the Democratic primaries. I think a lot of what he's saying is positive. I want to hear more, and I want to see how the race shapes out. The incumbent Mayor Eric Adams says he's running independent on a ticket called Affordability and Anti-Semitism. I don't know what that is. And I talked to Mayor Adams Friday. As a courtesy, I called to let him know I was having Mamdani at the House of Justice, and he can come whatever Saturday he wants. He's been a member of the organization. And all of the Jewish leaders up in arms saying that Mamdani had once said that he supported the international jihad and Antifa. And I said this morning, I'm on a joke. I didn't see that kind of man there Saturday. Yeah, y'all ought to meet with him. Meet with him and let him deal with it. Y'all used to tag me. And now we've been able to deal with some things that I shouldn't have said. I certainly never called him murder. They're talking about him with this terrorism. But I think a lot of it is that a lot of people don't want to see changes in power. I'm going to see where it goes. I certainly am in touch with our Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, who can be the Speaker of the House. I'm sensitive to making sure whatever politics goes down in New York does not affect the midterm elections where they try to make a poster boy out of Mamdani and to scare voters away in their congressional district. So talking about a lot of stuff today, and of course the last day of Black Music Month, you still can get in your musicians and your songs. Help us with all of this as we kick off the week with a young brother who has got his hand on the ball and his eyes on the goal. The Democratic strategist, founder, and CEO of Blueprint Strategy, LLC, Antoine Seawright. How you doing, Antoine?
Great Monday to you, Reverend Allen. What a heck of a week we had ahead of us.
Got a heck of a week. In fact, a constituent of one of your close friends, the Congresswoman, just left here, Congressman Tim Ryan, and former Congressman Tim Ryan, are meeting with me on several issues. And what we're facing with this bill, the big, beautiful bill, will literally cut Medicaid, literally cut the SNAP program. And then aside from that, with Homeland Security saying late Friday that they were ending the deportation relief for Haitians. I mean, that's why I had the Congresswoman on from Florida over the weekend, which means that every Haitian in Brooklyn, New York, all over the country, Florida, are at risk right now of ICE agents picking them up. It's funny because I said on Friday that people talking about why are you standing up for the Mexicans, Remal or El Salvador? Because it'll come to you next. Well, it's already here. What they doing with why? Based on what would you pick up or lift up the relief on Haitians when clearly Haiti is still in a state of disarray run by the gangs? So it's a week of challenge, Antoine.
Reb, and I think, we've been told when we were younger that the same symbol in the Chinese language for crisis is the same symbol for opportunity. While there are a number of challenges ahead, particularly with the big, ugly bill, as you know, that's going to cause people to die. It's going to cause nursing homes to close. It's going to cause people to get kicked off their health insurance. It's going to cause people to lose access to health care, including community health centers all across the country that I know have fought for a very long time. It's going to make certain that it's going to increase poverty amongst children, adults, and seniors and veterans for sure with the cuts to supplemental nutrition assistance programs. But more importantly, it's going to send a strong message about where the Republican priorities are. They rather check a political box and give a tax break to the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected while raising the national debt as they talk about being fiscal conservatives versus we're doing in the best interest of the American people. There's absolutely nothing in this bill, Reverend Al, not one single thing that would benefit working class Americans. When I mean working class, I mean those who've been marginalized, those who need these programs not to thrive but to survive. There's not one single thing. And then if they feel comfortable doing this, and you had McConnell saying that the people will get over it at some point, and you had the senator from Iowa saying people are eventually going to die anyway, if they're comfortable doing this, then that means next up is going to be Social Security and anything else that may be on the chopping block or has been on their agenda for a very long time. And so we need y'all to flood the zones. Murkowski is certainly a target. Susan Collins is a target. I think at this point every GOP senator is a target because they need to hear from folks. And we've got to let them know that the American people still have the power in this country.
Let them know that we still have the power and that we are not sleeping. And if those phone lines get jammed up, they will know there is an awakening in this country. All right, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Eric in Florida. Eric? Are you there, Eric?
Oh, this is Raj.
All right, go ahead, Raj. They said Eric on the board. Go ahead, Raj.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. No, I've been calling you like years ago, even during Trump's first term, and I was saying that their whole plan, Republicans, ever since basically the Southern strategy is to take all the money out of the mainstream economy, because I still believe they following Hitler's orders. His mission was to bring America down through economics and politics. And that's what I was saying before about Trump. You trace his bloodline back, it goes back to Germany, and they're just picking the low-hanging fruit, which is all the social programs. That's why they always attacking the social programs, because they know that's where mainstream America, all the economics basically is centered around. And so it's like America's like an accounting. They look at it like an accounting ledger, where you got the billionaires, which is code for in my opinion, not neo-Nazis on one side, and everyone else on the other, and they're just transferring all the wealth. That's why this is the largest wealth transfer in history, and they going for broke now because they know basically it's now or never for them. And
it's now or never if we vote. I think you're right. We got to vote and make that happen, Raj. And I think that a lot of us, one of the things that is most annoying to me is when people sit back and act like they have no role in getting stuff done. I'm going to see what the Democrats are going to do. I'm going to see what the preachers are going to do. I'm going to see what the leaders of civil rights groups are going to do. When are you going to see what you're going to do? All of us need to do our part. If we had done that, we would not be sitting up here with a Republican Senate, a Republican Congress, and a Republican-tilted Supreme Court. All of it was within our reach if we had voted in the numbers we have.
Yeah, because like even after Obama won his presidencies, which he had record turnouts with blacks, and overall, but with blacks, and then when it was time for when he couldn't run again and Hillary was up next, they blacks didn't connect the dots.
Right.
To keep it going. They should have known she was the Secretary of State that she would at least continue most of his policies, about all, and she was campaigning on his policies.
Right.
And I couldn't understand how so many blacks just sat out. That's why I say they don't. There's too many people that don't know what they're looking at, especially us. We the last ones could afford to not know what's going on in the narratives that they propagate and all the propaganda that they pump out, especially with Trump. There's so many people take Trump literally when he was just really trying to see what he can get away with through his propaganda and see how many people would fall for it. That's why he said he loved the uneducated. And he's running off a lot of what Hitler was the first one that felt he didn't need to appeal to the noble class and the more like scholarly class. He said, I just need the numbers. And most of them was uneducated. And that's what Trump, he's following the same playbook. And hopefully if the Democrats get the House back, and one thing I say they should try to do is make, I know they've been trying to make healthcare a human right forever, but they should really try to hammer that down and get it into not just a civil right, but a constitutional right for everyone.
Yeah.
And, I know you gotta run.
Women, I have to take my break, and we'll come right back to you first. Sharpton, see right, keeping it real. Be right back.
It's been a long time coming, but I'm
1968, Dr. Martin Luther King was killed in Memphis, Tennessee. And it has been the commitment of National Action Network to always, in the month he was killed, to let them know they killed the dreamer.
I have a dream today.
When they can't kill the dreamer.
we've reduced a lot of our ministry to entertainment. Or who can hoop the loudest, who could run around the pulpit more, or who got the dresses fancy, and don't deal with the ministry. Jesus healed more people than he preached to. Because there is in the healing your message. They followed Jesus because he healed a woman with the issue of blood. They followed Jesus because Jesus saw a blind man named Bartimaeus. A lot of us would have dismissed him because he was a broke, poor, homeless, a blind man. How you know he was broke, Reverend? Because they say he was begging. But he understood what he was doing because he heard that Jesus was passing by. And when Jesus got close enough, he said, Jesus, son of David, come see about me. They kept telling Jesus, let's go, look, we got a schedule, we got people to see. He said it again, Jesus, son of David, come see about me. And when he did it the third time, Jesus stopped and went and healed the blind man. Now, what I get out of that scripture, Bishop Daughtry, is that the blind man told Jesus, if you are who you say you are, you're going to stop and see me. And if you stop and see me, you will confirm who you are. But when we are pastoring and leading in communities with bad health, we cannot be the followers and representatives of Jesus and walk by people that are sick and we not be part of making them well.
Did you hear about what happened in Minneapolis? I said I saw it on television. It was in the middle of a pandemic. We were all locked down, couldn't go anywhere. And just watched the news over and over again. And he said the family would like to speak with him. He connected Philonis Floyd and one of George's brothers, carrying on with Keepin, and other members, all of the families, many of the families. And he said they'd like you to go to Minneapolis and protest what happened, and also say that we are not a family that condone violence, but some people were burning stuff down. In the middle of a pandemic, it's important that you know that people from all over, Black America, white America, all people came together to stand with this family. But I promised them that we would be there to the end. 5 years later, some people are missing, but I had to be here. And I'll be here as long as it takes to be This week, we saw some change over the years. We did not get the George Floyd justice bill, but we got consent decree in Minneapolis, where he was killed, and in Louisville, Kentucky, where Breonna Taylor was killed. This week, the Department of Justice under Donald Trump said they were going to end this consent decree, which is tantamount to the Department of Justice and the President spitting on the grave. To wait to the anniversary and announce this, knowing this family was going to be brought back to the brokenheartedness of what happened, shows the disregard and insensitivity. Wright is our co-host as he kicks off every Monday. Antoine, aside from focus as we go down to the vote on this big bill and focus on Murkowski and on Collins, what are particular races that you are looking at this year that forecast for you one way or another? Are we beginning to see some mobilization? I know there's a lot of talk about the mayor race in New York, but I had on two sisters last night. One for the mayor of Albany, Democratic nomination, Albany, New York. One for Syracuse, New York. People don't even know about these races. We are on a local level getting some things done, and I wish you'd share some of that with us, Antoine.
Well, Rev, all across the country, there will be races on the ballot this year that we have to focus our attention on. I was in Virginia this past weekend for 2 days at the Power Up Women's Summit, where there were 5,000 women, Rev, and I got a call from New Jersey asking me to come there in July, and I plan to be there because all across the country, up and down the ballot, there will be races this year that will be even perhaps more consequential to the ecosystem than next year. You have statewide races in Virginia, statewide races in New Jersey. You have a number of mayors and city council races in some places across the country. There are Supreme Court seats and state court seats on the ballot. You have county commissioners on the ballot. And these things all happen in 2025, not 2026. And while there are a lot of people all around the country focused on 2026, my focus and attention is making certain that we fertilize the ground in 2025. Let me give you an example, Reb, just by pure numbers so we can go by facts. There are 30,000 city council seats, 22,000 school board seats, 5,000 plus mayors, over 1,000 judges, 180 plus state legislative seats, and 2 governor seats on the ballot in 2025. And so if we're going to test drive what's going to work for us in 2026, we've got to organize in 2025. And look, it can't just be about black people organizing. We're going to need Lottie Dottie and everybody to organize for this Democracy Party that's expected to be very consequential in 2025.
No doubt about it. Let's go to Tyrone in Baltimore, Maryland. Tyrone. I don't hear Tyrone.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Reverend dropping you. Okay. I run a business, so you kind of caught me off guard, but it's all good. I just wanted to call in and thank you for the celebration for Marilyn Mosby, and you and other business leaders were able to donate money for seats, whatever you donated to 2 tables, as a matter of fact, which are 10 seats to a table. And that allowed us to let some of the elderly people and disabled people to get in that didn't have enough money, enough funds or whatever, they were fixed incomes. And we know it's about to get worse with the current administration. So that was godsend. And it was a great celebration. You had to be there. I know you couldn't make it because you're so busy, but, we would have loved to have you there speak. And we had Dr. Ife Williams and others. Senator Larry Young spoke. And it was a beautiful, we drummed her in. I'm talking about Marilyn Mosby, former state's attorney for Baltimore City, that was railroaded basically by the white power structure in Baltimore. We drummed her in, official drumming in ceremony, and we had African dance, and the dancers taught, everybody had a dance, and we were all dancing African dances in our finery because it was dressed to impress. And we had Lift Every Voice and Sing to live piano, and it was just fabulous. She got the Cowtail Switch, which was an award that they give to chiefs in Africa. And we had Dr. Ife Williams residing. She's a real queen mother. She was bestowed that honor by African chiefs in Ghana. So it was just fabulous. The whole thing went off without a hitch, and it was beautiful. Everybody enjoyed themselves. A beautiful meal. I mean, it was just fantastic. It was sight. She was so happy. She was out there doing the African dances with us, and I was the master of ceremony. So it was fan. We had a guy doing revolutionary dance Oh man, it was worth $75 if you had $75 for a ticket. It was worth it. But fortunately, a lot of our seniors were able to get in for free, thanks to you and people like Miss Ballard from Ballard County who bought 15 seats, and and other business leaders, Money Mike and other people who helped out. And even Larry Youngs paid more for his tickets than he needed to, and so that was a big help. And then help others that wanted to participate as a community to celebrate her return to the community, because she was just getting off of the house arrest. She was released off house arrest on June the 20th after a year, and we were just welcoming her back to the community because she successfully prosecuted 33 corrupt police officers, who were selling drugs, etc., playing guns and drugs on people in our communities, and burglarizing houses in some instances. And these are police officers doing this, and she freed 15 innocent black men who were serving life sentences for crimes they did not commit. So she raised the ire of the FOP. They came after her, they sued her, she lost everything, including her husband, her cars, and everything else. And so that was sort of like a fundraiser, as well, because all the proceeds from that, once the expenses are paid, goes to Marilyn Mosby and her daughters. And they suffered so much. It's a feeble attempt to try to make up for some of that stuff. And yes, she basically lost everything. If anybody wants to contribute, couldn't be there, whatever, we're still taking donations. Again, that goes to Marilyn Mosby and her daughters. You can call me personally at 410-978-6889 or text me, and I'll explain to you how you can participate in that. But Reverend Sharpton, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I wanted to send her gratitude to you when she found out about it. She was just so touched that you would reach out and help her in her moment of need and help our community in their moment of to celebrate her.
We have to support each other, especially if I feel an injustice is being done. Let's take a break. More of you on the phones. Hot Button Monday, Black Music Month, and Keeping It Real. Sharpton, see right after this.
Country, talking to the radio announcers, the church people and the street people, telling them that God has smiled on me. God has smiled on you if you got breath in your body. If He woke you up this morning and started you on your way. But I want to tell you some stories of people that God smiled on. We know the story of Dr. Martin Luther King, how he started way back in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, trying just to get dignity, trying to get respect. And he went all the way to the mountaintop. But he didn't forget about the brothers in the valley. He didn't forget about those trapped in the alley. And I hear Brother Martin King say, God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. Let me tell you, God has smiled on me. It's been so good to me. Then I see as Dr. King went on, another man stepping to the forefront by the name of John F. Kennedy, who rose up and said, let's not stand back. Let's not wait for a handout. Let's wait for a way out. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. He said, don't us gravel and don't us moan, because God done smile on us. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Let me say it. Yeah. One more time. song, and I sung it all over the world. I told them it was a man's world. I told them about the big payback. I told them Papa got a brand new bag, and all over the world they can hear my voice. But Reverend, don't you frown, don't you bow your head. Tell them what you told me, Brother Brown. And she said, son, even though we don't have much, we don't need relief. All we need is belief. And she said, he didn't tell you no lie, because the Lord will take care of you. God sits high, but he looks down low. And every time you get discouraged, every time you're burning down, all you have to do is think of the things that God made a way for you and look toward the heavens. Lift your eyes to the hills and say, God, 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 don't smile on me. Now then the God has smiled on me. He has set me free. God has smiled on me. That has been so good to me. Yes, he has. I said, God smiled on me. He has set me free. And I know all over the country, smile on me. We need jobs. We need a way to make it. We need help. We need jobs. We need a way to make some money to feed our families and raise our bread. We need a way to survive, so we don't need crime as a survival kit. We just need a little bit. But don't give the hope up. Don't lose the faith, because God will smile on you. God will give you the strength. God will make a way for you. Adam Clay Powell said, keep the faith. Keep the faith, baby. I hear Robert Kennedy saying that it's not the dream of, but it's the dream that'll live on forever. Just know that God will smile on you. Dr. King had a dream. Dr. King said, I went to the mountaintop, but I didn't stop there. I looked over and saw the promised land. I hear Brother Malcolm saying, don't sit on the stoop. Stand up and be a man. Respect yourself. Be somebody. Then I hear the brothers in the Hispanic community say, I'm going to stand up and be a man. I'm going to do the best I can. I had a reaper say, I don't care what time you come home, but just give me some respect when you get there. He has set me free. God, smile on me. You've been so good to me. Sit down. And as we move on in history, let us remember that if we look to God, God has an answer to all of our problems. God is still the same God he was years ago, and we can still make it. We can still hold on like Frederick Douglass did. We can still keep him on like Martin Luther King did. We can still ride on the way everyone that made it did. They didn't have much, but they had a whole lot of faith. They didn't have money, but they had a lot of determination. We know that God will look out for his children, that God will make a way out of no way if you just keep the faith and refuse to lose. And God will make a way, because God's children don't have color. God's children just have will. And I can still hear somewhere in my mind James Brown say, God has smiled on me. He has.
Co-host Frederick McLeod says, I'm for tax cuts. I hate taxes. I don't know how old you are. At one point in time, big business shared the wealth. It's called giving back instead of taking away. That's my qualm. And he's writing that to Marshall Amber, who had written a statement. O.G. Kelly, let's raise his up. O.G. Kelly is saying to Marshall, the Trump administration and Homeland Security is ending the deportation protection for the Haitian people, and it's up to the Haitian people to look for their legal representation. I talked about that earlier in the broadcast today, Antoine, and I talked about it both nights on Politics Nation, and it shows why we have a Politics Nation, because I don't hear many other shows even talking about it, and not a lot on social media. But to just arbitrarily like this take out 500,000 deportation reliefs at a time you bringing in white South Africans, I do not understand why all of us aren't on this issue.
Well, Rev, yes, you do, because they don't want this to be a top of mind issue. Keep in mind, this is the same guy who said the Haitians were eating cats and dogs in Ohio.
Right.
This is the same president who implemented a Muslim ban. I know I commented on that in the Guardian over the weekend, and so they're doing these racialization things because they know that feeds the coin machine on the right wing side, as well as doing the things that benefit the wealthy, the well off, and connected, because those are the people who fund Trump and who fund the GOP. And now his daughter's in talks for the Senate race in North Carolina. You can best believe he's going to cater and play footsie to the money and to the donors to make certain that if she decides to do it, that campaign will be well funded and a well-oiled machine. In the meantime, I think Democrats are going to have to learn the unity principle around the issues that we all care about and we can have some agreement on. I said this to a reporter the other day, and I'll say it on this program. We've got to learn how to yell in the places we agree and whisper in the places we disagree. To my progressive friends who I know are listening to this program expecting me to say something, let me just say this to you. We don't have to agree on everything, but when we do make progress, it doesn't mean that you cannot say, congratulations, we were able to do this together. And we may not have agreement. It doesn't mean that we're anti-you or you're anti-us. It just means that we have some differences, and that's okay. But our strongest point as Democrats, when we're in the minority in particular, is to make sure we're unified on the things that the American people care about. Defeating this big, ugly bill should be a rallying cry for all of us in the Democratic ecosystem, or those who care about health care and people as we know them.
The primary win in New York's mayoral contest of Zohran Mamdani is being played all kinds of different ways, and you, I'm sure, know he was come Saturday morning on the National Action Network. How do you see this as, put on your political consultant hat, how do you see this from a national perspective? Some are saying that the party is going to look too far left. He calls himself a democratic socialist. Others say it represents a new generation, and it's a good thing. How do you see this?
Well, Rev, many things can be true. He can represent a new generation of leaders, and I think no one pushes back on that. But I also think the other side of it, he can be a liability for other races around the country. And I want to just clarify one thing. In the primary, you make a choice. In a general election, you give a choice. There were 1 million people who voted in a Democratic primary. That doesn't speak for the entire Democratic ecosystem in New York City, or for that matter, in the Democratic Party. But what can happen is that you can immediately, what you say and do can immediately become a political liability for the entire Democratic ecosystem. I think the Assemblyman has some clarifying points to make around some of the issues and statements he's made in the past. I certainly want to hear from him around the uncommitted movement in Michigan and other places around the country that, in my opinion, cause us headaches for Vice President Harris's presidential run, and even unifying the party in some places. I know the Jewish community has some concerns. And quite frankly, if you look at the numbers, he did not garner all the support among a strong, deep, and wide support among African Americans across New York City. And so I think he has some work to do. Just because he won a primary doesn't mean he's won a general election. Eric Adams will have some support in a general election as an independent candidate. I know Cuomo, if he decides to stay in the race, will have some support. And still, he's got to figure out how to build a coalition that will give him general election support. And Rev, there's one more point. You can talk about issues as a candidate, but how you govern is two different things. And the power you have from a governing standpoint is two different things. And so if you don't come through with some of the promises you campaign on, that's when you lose the trust of some of those voters, those new voters that you brought to the system, because his coalition was primarily white progressives. There were some young African Americans, but a heavy load of Asian voters in the city of New York. That's not a traditional coalition. And a lot of those people, according to some of the exits I've seen and heard about, were people who voted out of frustration and rejection. And so if that's the case and you cannot do all the things you promised, you're going to cause long-term headache and problems within the entire ecosystem.
Well,
so there's
according
a lot of work to be done.
according to exit polls, Andrew Cuomo, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, got 44% of the black vote in the primary, and Ma'am Donnie got less than 20%. And I think that's one of the reasons he came to Harlem, because there's no way he can win in November without the black vote. But you got to, the affordability issue is fine, and I agree with him there. And I love the fact he's inspiring young people. But you got to come with some more than that. And I think his problems with the Jewish community, he needs to confront them head on, because. You know, I told him, Antoine, and I said on radio, I told him, and you brought it back to mind when your last statement. I was in South Africa in 1994 for the first elections in South Africa after they had been able to establish a democratic process there after fighting for apartheid all those years. And the election went by party. And Reverend Wyatt T. Walker, who had been Dr. King's executive director, was the first chairman of National Action Network's board, got me and others to come. We were election observers. And it was a 3-day election. People lined up for miles. I've never seen more people line up to vote. And ANC won the election. Nelson Mandela became the president. He had served, as most of you know, 27 years in jail. And about 2 days after the election, we were sitting talking to President-elect Mandela, and he told this story, and you brought it to mind. And I told this, ironically, to Ma'am Danny the other day. He said that I go for a brisk walk every morning. He says, I walk very brisk as my exercise. And I went out this morning with my security, and he says all of the stores and storefronts are closed because it's pre-dawn, and that's when I walk. He says, but a truck rode by and threw something out in front of one of the stores. My security grabbed me, not knowing if it was some kind of bomb or firebomb or something, and it was the newspapers that they were throwing there so that when the store opened, they could sell their newspapers. And they settled down, so it was only newspapers. And one of the security guards looked at the headline in the Johannesburg paper and said, he's proven he won an election. Now let's see if he can govern. And Mandela said to us, his security guard said, see, they are never satisfied, Madiba. He said, no, they're right. Now we've got to prove we can govern. And there is a difference between running an election and running a city or running a country. Now, I hope whoever wins can govern, but you're going to have to govern. And it is not an easy task. One of the things, you know, I've never held public office, really never wanted to. I've ran for office to raise certain issues. But there's a difference between a lot of ad hoc activists and those of us that stop and build an organization. And we have offices all over the country. I got 70-some people on payroll. Every Tuesday I got to pay in 6 offices. And don't get any federal, state, or city money because I couldn't do what I wanted to do with public money. There's a difference between running an organization and running your mouth. And I think that that's what people need to understand. And I think that's what you're touching upon. And I don't think you're doing it as a criticism, but as a course correction around Ma'am Danny and a lot of other people that run for office.
Yeah, Reb, and the other thing is, Reb, while I thought it was great that he turned out, you know, the coalition he turned out, you know as well as I know, who turns out in the primary may not turn out in the general election.
Right.
And so there's a lot of yapping and a lot of clapping and a lot of slapping, about the last election, but again, it's a primary, and I think we have to take these things one step at a time. Look, I hope that people succeed at whatever they want to do. There's no hate in Antoine Seawright, but I also know that when the minute you become a liability, the minute you become a problem for the ecosystem, because if we don't get to 218 in November of next year, we all have a problem. If we don't win in New Jersey and Virginia, we all have a problem. And some of the policies that he has advocated for in the past, that's why I said he's going to have to clarify at some point, while they may be popular on paper, like some of those of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and others in the presidential preference primary, when it comes down to implementation, when it comes down to actual voting and getting it done, that's a whole nother ball of wax. And I think that's what some of the online voices may not recognize when they come after me on social media and so forth, calling me the establishment and all those things. No, I just know how to count. And I've been around long enough to know how to get things done.
Well, Disco Brian Davis said Kamala Harris was Netanyahu's worst nightmare. DSA, Mandani supporting white leftists failed to acknowledge this fact. Interesting. Let's take a break on that one. Talk about it on the other side of the break. I want some more black music dedications as well. 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton, Seawright. Keeping it real. Be right back.
If you hear about what happened in Minneapolis, I said I saw it on television. It was in the middle of a pandemic. We were all locked down, couldn't go anywhere. And just watched the news over and over again. And he said the family would like to speak with him. He connected Philonis Floyd and one of George's brothers, and carried on with Keepin and other members, Victoria, all of the families, many of the family members. And he said they'd like you to go to Minneapolis and protest what happened, and also say that we are not a family that condone violence, because some people were burning stuff down. In the middle of a pandemic, it's important that you know that people from all over, Black America, white America, all people came together to stand with this family. But I promised them that we would be there to the end. 5 years later, some people are missing, but I had to be here. And I'll be here as long as it takes to be here. This week, we saw some change over the years. We did not get the George Floyd justice bill, but we got consent decree in Minneapolis, where he was killed, and in Louisville, Kentucky, where Breonna Taylor was killed. This week, the Department of Justice under Donald Trump said they were going to end this consent decree, which is tantamount to the Department of Justice and the President spitting on the grave. To wait to the anniversary and announce this, knowing this family was going to be brought back to the brokenheartedness of what happened, shows the disregard and insensitivity.
Rev, you know you were right there
from the beginning
with the stuff that was going on in Brooklyn at that time, at Howard Beach. You were right there.
He had in one of the early movies, he had my name. Then he put me in Malcolm, but I wasn't even old enough to know Malcolm. So we've been through it all.
For those who see Malcolm X, it's 3 hours. But fast forward to the scene yourself,
Yep.
Bobby Seale.
Right. Bobby Seale, Denzel, and me.
Yeah.
Denzel was on the set.
Now, let me ask a question.
Yep.
What was your weight on that scene?
I probably about 270. I was bigger then.
Yeah.
Still had the hair back.
Yeah, you had the head on.
Yeah, it was
Denzel, yourself, and Bobby Seale.
Yeah, all in one scene.
And also, there was no cut, so we went like this.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Only Spike could have done that.
It's my brother right here.
My baby.
Brooklyn's in the house.
Yes, sir.
Brooklyn's in the house.
BK.
So did you hear about what happened in Minneapolis? I said I saw it on television. It was in the middle of a pandemic. We were all locked down, couldn't go anywhere. And just watched the news over and over again. And he said the family would like to speak with him. He connected Philonis Floyd and one of George's brothers, carrying on with Keepin and other members, all of the families, many of the family members. And he said they'd like you to go to Minneapolis and protest what happened, and also say that we are not a family that condone violence, but some people were burning stuff down. In the middle of a pandemic, it's important that you know that people from all over, Black America, white America, all people came together to stand with this family. But I promised them that we would be there to the end. 5 years later, some people are missing, but I had to be here. And I'll be here as long as it takes to be. This week, we saw some change over the years. We did not get the George Floyd Justice Bill, but we got consent decree in Minneapolis, where he was killed, and in Louisville, Kentucky, where Breonna Taylor was killed. This week, the Department of Justice under Donald Trump said they were going to end this consent decree, which is tantamount to the Department of Justice and the President spitting on the brake. To wait to the anniversary and announce this, knowing this family was going to be brought back to the brokenheartedness of what happened, shows the disregard and insensitivity. Stop going through your life like you are a co-star or a bit player in your own drama. No, you are the main star. You're the central figure in your life. What you decide is what is the major thrust of your life. And others may contribute, impact, affect, but it's your life that you're central in. So stop trying to lay the weight of what you do or don't do on others. That weight is squarely on your shoulders and in your hand. And if you want to defer and give your life choices to others, that's on you. If they have any sense at all, they will be so busy trying to conduct and properly guide their life, they will not have time to try to major in your life.
Hello, Keeping It Real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. Antoine Seawright is our co-host. Don't forget, Saturday and Sunday, even on the 4th of July weekend, I will be live on Politics Nation with Al Sharpton, live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on MSNBC. We had two great shows this weekend. We had everyone from the senator from Vermont giving us blow by blow what was going on in the Senate, Senator Peter Welch. We had Congressman Al Green. We had from Florida, the Congresswoman, I'm looking at my notes wrong, around this Haitian issue. We had Janae Nelson, head of the Legal Defense Fund, interpreting what the whole homeland, the whole question of the 14th Amendment, that's what I'm trying to say, and birthright citizenship was. So you never know who I'm going to have on Politics Nation, but you know I'm going to have the best, and that'll deal with the real issues. Watch it live at 5 p.m. Eastern, even this weekend. I'll be live Saturday from New Orleans from the Essence Music Festival and live from New York on Sunday. And you that are not signed up yet to get information on the August 28th March on Wall Street, you need to go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Sign up right now so we can get you all the information. People, unions, and other entities, churches are signing up. I had 3 national union leaders call me on Friday and said, we're marching. We want to help support. We want to send buses. And you're right. We've got to address Wall Street. All right, on our message page, Antoine Disco Brian Davis says, Spike Lee and Reverend Sharpton were unrelenting in their advocacy and surrogacy for the most qualified presidential candidates in U.S. history last year. AOC seemed to be as well. Man, Danny was not, so who changed? Not Rev, not Reverend Sharpton, not Spike Lee, but apparently AOC, Center and Uplift Black Women First. Interesting. And Tricia says, no disrespect, but we don't need to assume if he, I guess she's talking about Mondami, voted for Harris, he needs to state whether or not he did. He has to stand on business. If he didn't, he has to explain why he did not support her. And interesting. And I think, Antoine, these are legitimate concerns. I think that we gave him the opportunity to address the community on Saturday. I think he did a good job, but that doesn't mean that's the end of that. That's the beginning of that. And I think, as I said this morning on Morning Joe, I think he's going to have to deal with his issues in the Jewish community and the black community. And I think Mayor Adams is going to have to deal with people's concerns about, was there some kind of deal with Donald Trump that got his charges dropped? 6 prosecutors quit their jobs saying that they were forced to drop the charges, and it came from the top. He's got to explain that. Not that I would want to see anybody go to jail if they're innocent, but I also want to know if you're in a compromising position when it comes to us. If they come in here after Haitians, like they went in L.A., and you're the mayor, if you got a deal with the president, that has to be dealt with. And the reason, and I raised that, and I say that with a little pain because Eric Adams and I have been friends 35 years, but the truth is the light, and all I want is the truth. And the reason I raised that is because when Mayor Adams went about 3 weeks ago to the White House for a meeting with the president and left, and the press asked him, what were y'all meeting about? And he said, we met about, problems in the city. hour or two later, the press was allowed in the Oval Office and asked Trump, you had to meet with Mayor Eric Adams. What about the stuff that y'all in the city that y'all talk about? And Trump said, oh, no, he came to thank me. That was his quote. Well, thank you for what? And y'all didn't talk about the city? But that's the problem you got when you deal with somebody like Trump. Trump uses people and wants to brag about he uses them. At the same time, I think, Antoine, you are right that there's a lot of questions in the national black circles and right here locally, Hakeem, who's in those circles, of what all of this means. So we're less than a week since it happened. And if you're going to be the candidate, you got to do the explaining. And I agree with you, Antoine. A lot of people voting in the primaries may not vote in the general. But guess what? A lot of people voting in the general didn't vote in the primary.
That's has the mask for him or anyone else trying to be the mayor. And quite frankly, whoever becomes the mayor, they've got to quickly figure out how they're going to govern and how not to be a liability for Democrats going into 2026. Because, Rev, guess what? There are 3, I think 4 swing seats in New York. 2 or 3 of them already come out and separate themselves because their district calls for that. And as I said in Politico, we have to give Laura Gillum and Tom Swazi and Josh Riley and Dan Goldman, if he needs to be, breathing room to be able to represent the interests of their constituencies. Their constituencies and their policy agenda does not line up with the assemblyman, and that's okay. We can't throw them away because they don't agree. And that is not uncommon to happen in politics where there's some separation between certain candidates and certain causes. But I will also say to anybody who's listening to this program, because I was there, I'm old enough to remember when things like words like defund the police, whether the meaning was clarified or not, defund the police caused us to lose elections around the country. So again, what someone says or has said or tweeted can be used against all of us in the court of public opinion. That's why I think it's important for the assemblyman to clarify his position. And certainly as a black man who worked his damn hardest to help elect to try to get Kamala Harris elected, I want to know, how did he participate in the last election, and why did he thought it was important for the uncommitted movement to be raised as something that he was a part of, because we know that was simply a distraction in a place like Michigan that caused us harm.
All right, let's go to Donald in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Donald.
Doing, Reverend? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Okay. Do you know there's a radio show that comes on in the morning from 7 to 9. I don't know if you heard of her, Michelle Bryan with Say Something Real. Your two names is almost the same.
No, I've not heard it. No.
Yeah, and yours is
Keeping It Real.
Keeping It Real. Yeah. There's this spirit, directly speaking. I was thinking of how Trump is, as narrow-minded as he is. I'm thinking like, he would be so low as try to get his picture on a dollar bill. They had the 5, 10, the 20 and the 50 and $100 bill. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets so low to try to have his picture on a dollar bill and have like a $5,000 bill. The reason why I'm thinking of that, because there's a couple of callers ago saying that they were making a paper money with him with his picture on the back. So that brought me to the mind what I'm thinking right now, so.
I wouldn't be surprised at Trump putting his picture on any and everything he could. But thank you for your call. Let me go to Al in Rochester. Al?
Rev, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. I just want to keep it short and real. It's going to take more than politics to straighten these problems out in this world. The man upstairs is going to have to be by your side. I don't care what situation, whether you protest, whether you march, you take him with you on the right-hand side. When Moses went to Egypt, he didn't go by himself. Daniel went in the lion's den. He come out of there without a scratch. Martin Luther King got murdered, but it was not in vain. Whoever you are, pray before you take that step. Pray when you get up in the morning. Pray when you go to sleep. It's going to take the man upstairs a divine intervention to straighten this out. And that's all I got to say.
Well, thank you for your call. I agree with what you say, but I would emphasize everybody you name, they prayed and let God use them being active. You know, Moses didn't just pray and stay in the wilderness. Moses prayed and went and told Pharaoh to let his people go. A lot of us pray and stand still. God does not use anybody to not stand up. And Daniel, he was in the lion's den because he took a position against the government. So every example you use were people that stood up against wickedness and prayed to give them the strength. A lot of y'all is praying, Lord, use me, and then roll over in the bed and go back to sleep. And that, to me, is a sin. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton and Brother Seawright. Be right back. Keeping it real. Thank you. In 1972, when Shirley Chisholm ran for president, part of why she ran was to protest the war in Vietnam. In her memory, we can protest what's going on now around the world and say that if Shirley Chisholm was alive, she would not tell you to be quiet. She would tell you to stand up for what is right. From Haiti to Ukraine to Gaza, wherever there's wrong, you should stand up and fight. I met Shirley Chisholm when I was a teenager. I became part of her campaign in 1972. When she graduated this school in '46, blacks in the South were still having to ride in the back of the bus. When she graduated in '46, women around the country had no rights over the decisions of their bodies. It was because people like Shirley Chisholm stood up and fought back that blacks went all the way to the White House and women got the right to choose. In her memory, we must keep those fights alive. There are those forces today that want to turn back the clock. They can turn back the clock, but they can't turn back time. We will never go back to the back of the bus. We will never lose the right to choose. We will never bend a buckle or bow. In the name of Shirley Chisholm, keep your voices loud, keep your heads up and your back strong, and stand up for your rights.
What a beautiful tribute, Reverend Sharpton, thank you. It's also my honor right now to recognize the Reverend Al Sharpton himself, an extraordinary leader with a lifelong commitment to justice, equality, and civil rights. Reverend Sharpton stands against all forms of hate and has become a champion of open and respectful dialogue in a society often divided by rhetoric and misunderstanding. Throughout his remarkable career, Sharpton has worked to confront injustice and amplify the voices of the marginalized. From his early days organizing grassroots movements to becoming a prominent national figure, he has consistently used his platform to advocate for equal rights. Like many leaders who have been in the spotlight for decades, Reverend Sharpton has evolved over time. A key aspect of this evolution has come from listening and understanding diverse perspectives. Over the years, he has emphasized the importance of hearing others' voices with empathy and respect, especially those of goodwill with different opinions than his. This empathetic approach has allowed him to forge meaningful dialogues, build bridges between divides, and work towards solutions grounded in mutual understanding and respect. We are grateful for his commitment to constructive dialogue across difference. Today, Reverend Sharpton's influence continues to resonate, and he is recognized as one of the most prominent heirs to Shirley Chisholm's legacy, an honored Brooklyn native who has dedicated his life to carrying the mantle forward, pushing our society rooted in fairness and dignity and compassion. It's my privilege to present the Reverend Al Sharpton with this award in recognition of his leadership and profound commitment to justice. May his work inspire us to listen with empathy, act with integrity, and build a more just and compassionate world.
Let me say this. Thank you for this award. I went to Brooklyn College. When I went to Brooklyn College, I was living in Brownsville with my mother. My mother came from the Deep South. She never made it out of junior high school because of segregation. I was the first one in my family to go to college. I had some complex about being on welfare, going to shop with food stamps, going to Brooklyn College. But my mother told me life is not about where you come from. Life is about where you're going. And she said when I graduated Tilden High School, when they call your name, keep your head high. Don't worry about your poverty, worry about your future. And I want to say to the graduates today, when you come across this stage and they call your name, don't worry about your circumstance. Worry about you stood in this school and made them call your name. Make this the first day of your life that you make everybody that you deal with call your name. I don't care how poor you are, make them call your name. I don't care how black you are or white you are or Jewish you are or Muslim you are, make them call your name. You've proven today you are not somebody to be overlooked and somebody to be looked down on. You make them the rest of your life call your name. Stand up for something. Stand up and be what you dream of being. Thank you and God bless you.
Did you hear about what happened in Minneapolis? I said I saw it on television. It was in the middle of a pandemic. We were all locked down, couldn't go anywhere. And just watched the news over and over again. And he said the family would like to speak with him. He connected Philonis Floyd and one of George's brothers, carrying on with Keepin and other members, Victoria, all of the families, many of the family members. And he said they'd like you to go to Minneapolis and protest what happened, and also say that we are not a family that condone violence, but some people were burning stuff down. In the middle of a pandemic, it's important that you know that people from all over, Black America, white America, all people came together to stand with this family.
Sharpton, Antoine Seawright is our co-host. Let me go to the sage of the South, Brother Jihad in Atlanta. Brother Jihad.
Hey, good afternoon to both of you.
Good afternoon.
Hey, right, so someone, what is a democratic socialist? Exactly what is that?
Antoine, you might have a better definition than me. I'm not clear.
Well, I don't know if I'm clear about what the technical definition is, but I can tell you what it has turned into in terms of a liability for us as a party. Someone who stands for issues that may not play well in, I would say, competitive districts. Someone who's advocated for what some describe as free stuff. Someone who's advocated for lots of government intervention and not necessarily a hand up, but a hand out. At least that's what it's been described as. And again, it's not Antoine's definition. I'm telling you how politically it has been used against us.
Right. Okay. So there's a definition, and then there's a perceived definition.
Right.
Which is what politics is all about, perception.
Right. Okay. So the perception is that, okay, between right now, it looks like we're going to have 3 people running for mayor from the Democratic side.
Right.
And if this turns out to be true, we have Cuomo, the current mayor, and this guy. What percentage of the whole citywide vote did the Democrats get until they can afford to split 3 votes and allow the Republican in? Is that possible?
It's possible, but I doubt that the Republican nominee at this time is Curtis Sliwa, founder of the Guardian Angels.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think that he'll win no matter how it's split. I think that the question is going to be, Jihad, is does Cuomo really run as an independent along with Eric Adams? Because if Cuomo runs, then it splits a lot of independent votes. And if he doesn't run, I don't know that Eric Adams doesn't win again if he can explain this whole Trump situation. So it's still in flux right now.
Right. Okay. Then my last question is I remember a few years back, for at least the last 10 years, we as a community, a lot of us have been touting the fact that we were going to outnumber white people in America by the year 2045. That is brown and black.
Right.
And whoever else. And to me, Reverend Sharpton, they heard that statement. And what they did was they came up with what we're running up against today.
Right.
The nutrition of that black vote. Right? So I was clearly saying they heard you. They heard us. Now the question becomes, what is our strategy? What is our move to counter their move? Or is there a move to counter their move? Because clearly all of these policies seem to be in place to negate the black vote and to negate the population growth in America, where they might lose power. You know what I mean? So I can't blame them for responding. Now the question is, how do we respond? And
Well,
I like to say
that's.
this by saying, yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Reverend Sharpton. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's why I call you the sage of the South, because that's exactly what I was thinking. I am, as I said, I'm very much not committed thus far in this mayor's race in New York, and I worked hard around the Kamala Harris race, as everybody knows. But the first thing I wanted to do, Brother Jihad and Antoine, is I extended to him an invitation to come up to the House of Justice. We meet every Saturday, and wanted to see if he would come, because the press, New York Times has done an article where this is the first time a man won in decades without the black vote, like we didn't matter anymore. And what I wanted to see is whether he was going to say, I don't need them and don't come. So it was testing. He came and he said what he had to say, and I still didn't make an endorsement, and Spike Lee was there, wouldn't make an endorsement. But they want to try and marginalize us in a city that blacks and browns are the majority of the city, which is what Seawright was applying to. I think a lot of people didn't vote because they didn't think this was going to happen, but we'll see. But my thing is, now that you got the position, let me question you like somebody that's going to be mayor. And I'm not saying he couldn't. I'm not saying he shouldn't. I'm saying let's hear the answers.
Right. Well, we're going to put him in under the same heat that everybody else was put under.
That's right.
Frank about it. And he should be put under the same heat that everybody. But I also like to say, too, to caution us that the psychology of, you know how they said that the Democrats last time, I heard a lot of the Democrats say, don't mention Trump. We're not going to run against Trump. We're not going to mention Trump this time. Is there a difference between Trump and Trump policies? There's no difference between the two.
Not at all.
So what they've done successfully gave us an argument. We inherit and support the argument. And now many Democrats you hear on the news saying, well, we're not going to make Trump the main issue this time. Trump is the main issue.
Absolutely.
Trump policies is the main issue. They're one and the same thing.
Well, Trump's policies are the main issue, and they're one and the same because Trump will get up tomorrow morning and change his policies. So it's all about Trump.
Exactly right.
And see, the thing that I think that you're right about is I had to shut down a young guy stopped me in the street, Remal, young white fella, said, Remal, I'm glad that you gave the audience to, Mandami. He said, because I didn't understand outsiders coming in here like James Clyburn endorsing who he endorsed. I think he endorsed Cuomo. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, well, I think Clyburn landed at the same airport Bernie Sanders landed at. I mean, why do y'all have different standards when it come to us? I resent that. And he kind of looked at me shocked. So you can bring Bernie in, but if somebody calls Clyburn in, who is our statesman, you question that, you getting ready to lose my invitation.
Anyway. And this concept of inside outside is crazy.
That's right.
Like Antoine just said, everything matters now.
Right.
A mayoral race could matter in a national race. Everything matters. So it's not an outside in. That's European. This is a Caucasian mindset when he talked about outsiders coming in, riling up our Negroes.
Right.
And
That's right.
making our Negroes do this, that, blah, blah, blah. So we don't need to buy into that mentality and that particular language. Thanks a lot, brother.
All right. And thank you. And Antoine, I always say the youth leader of the young progressives is an 83-year-old man named Bernie Sanders. How's Bernie Sanders not old, but Clyburn's old? I mean, Bernie Sanders is the youth leader of the progressives. He's older than Joe Biden.
And Rev, don't also forget the youth leader of the progressive movement doesn't look like you and I.
Oh.
And so when we say, and so when we say young black leaders and we need all this other stuff, but it's okay not good for me.
Right. I told some students that. I said, you do realize, you're talking about for the older generation, you and Sanders. I said, wait a minute, you do realize when I was going to first grade, he was in his first year of college. We're not the same generation. They said, oh, let's take a break. We'll be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. See right. Be right back.
Did you hear about what happened in Minneapolis? I said I saw it on television. It was in the middle of a pandemic. We were all locked down, couldn't go anywhere. He just watched the news over and over again. And he said the family would like to speak with him. He connected Philonis Floyd and one of George's brothers, carrying on with Keepin and other members, all of the families, many of the family members. And he said they'd like you to go to Minneapolis and protest what happened, and also say that we are not a family that condone violence, but some people were burning stuff down. In the middle of a pandemic, it's important that you know that people from all over, Black America, white America, all people came together to stand with this family. But I promised them that we would be there to the end. 5 years later, some people are missing, but I had to be here. And I'll be here as long as it takes to be This week, we saw some change over the years. We did not get the George Floyd justice bill, but we got consent decree in Minneapolis, where he was killed, and in Louisville, Kentucky, where Breonna Taylor was killed. This week, the Department of Justice under Donald Trump said they were going to end this consent decree, which is tantamount to the Department of Justice and the President spitting on the grave. To wait to the anniversary and announce this, knowing this family was going to be brought back to the brokenheartedness of what happened, shows the disregard and insensitivity.
live, sir.
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, Antoine Seawright, been with us for the whole ride. Let's go to Yessie in Atlanta, Georgia. Yessie, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton and Antoine Seawright.
Right, glad you're doing well, General. Reverend Seawright, blessing. I'd like to bring to mind some things that are happening that might.
You got to speak up. I can hardly hear you.
I apologize. Can you hear me any better now?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Okay. I'm going to take us into the Middle East and the things that are happening with the type of people we're dealing with politically, and how right now the United States of America, the governing body that technically stole this land from our ancestors. The point I wanted to point out exactly what they're doing to Gaza. In 100 years, they'll be talking about Gaza like no Gazans were ever there, which is exactly how they're talking about the Americas now in reference to still the British regime, so to speak. And the politics of it are always in the favor of the corporation that is what we could call technically the new house. So in the new house, we can get in, but they'll try to switch up if they can, as they did over the last 40 to 50 years with the Hispanic community. And then they'll switch on the whole Hispanic community in favor of their kin. Because when we talk about the United Nations, we're not talking about all African nations and all indigenous people. We're not talking about the indigenous people of Australia. We're always talking about a lightly melanated people that are trying to erase the birthright to the people of the land, as if they're a different people of some sort, and their paperwork takes precedence over any paperwork we might put together as a free nation of people after the Emancipation Proclamation, if in fact that was a document that freed us. And the last point I'd like to make, we could more accurately be assessed to be prisoners of war on the continent of North America especially, in that there's no proof they brought us here from any place. Of course, because our lineage is of the earth, our DNA will show up any place you will find other melanated people. So that argument they lose in the argument over reparations gets foggy at this point because, well, we'll give you reparations, but no, I wasn't a slave. I'm a POW. You actually stole this land. You stole all of the monuments, all of the sacred places from my people, killed off all of our elders, and some few tribes signed treaties that you still didn't honor after they additionally helped you to destroy many other tribes. And our focus being political, while they're playing political games internally within our people, we need to assess our infrastructure and our relationships, because they've given us the boule and the bourgeoisie that might be a little bit more comfortable than they should be, considering the fact that you might be picking fruit next year, which is another subject altogether. Thank you for so much time.
Might be taking fruit. What do you mean?
Well, you know they want us to be out there where the Hispanic brothers are no longer working and toiling. And if I make one point, if we go back to those fields, we should be going back to take property and equity that belonged to our ancestors or is due to the slaves of our ancestors that were brought here.
And how do we take that?
Take by making contracts with them to work for land and agree on land settlements for as our reparations.
And why would they make a contract like that with us?
Because right now nobody's picking their fruit. They could even go. They could go under, and the government's going to pay them to go under, Reverend. For real, the government's going to give them money because it was a shame that there was no one here to pick the fruit. Here, take $1 million for your pain, and it'll blow over for a little while.
So all right, so they get $1 million. They get $1 million for their pain because no one's picking the fruit, and then we come to pick the fruit, and we're going to demand a contract, and they're going to treat us as partners when they got $1 million subsidies.
They would have to.
Why?
And it would have to be something.
Why? They got $1 million. Why?
And you know what? They don't, Reverend Al.
They don't what?
Don't. They don't have to deal with us. They could find some Ukrainians to come.
Well, I'm going by what you said. I'm trying to follow your theory. You said that we go to them because they'll need us. Now you're saying they'll get to the Ukrainians. How do you go to the Ukrainians when they can't get out of Ukraine? They're in war. So, I mean, I don't understand where you're taking this.
Where I'm taking this, Al, is they deported all of the people who would normally be doing that work that we did before they gave them those jobs under the table in the process of not allowing us to have equity in the commercial playing fields.
Because they brought us here to be slaves. They didn't bring us here to be partners.
Well, I don't buy into that. They brought all of us here to be slaves. That's not my doctrine. It's not what history says.
What does history say? What does history say?
History says we were here and we were civilized.
We were here where?
On the continent of America.
All right. So there was no African slave trade?
I did not say that.
I'm asking you.
I did not say there was no African slave trade. There's still an African slave trade. However, our focus should be on the theft of our home. And additionally, we ended up in slave labor situations, all the way up into Jim Crow, big bro. And you know this, and I appreciate you having the discourse with me, beloved.
Thank you for your call. Let me go to. Let me ask you one question, Antoine. And a lot of times I engage in conversations because I'm really confused about the point, and I don't like to just assume I disagree because maybe I just don't understand. But let me ask you this. If we are going to deal with any aspect of equity and fairness and our being empowered, is there any way we can do that around the political process at this point? I'm not saying that's the only route, but it has to be included. Would you not think so?
Where the way we settle our differences and our disputes and the way we change policy in this country is at the ballot box. So I don't know how else in history we've done that, and I don't know how in the future we do that, because everything rolls back to the ballot box, from courts to appointments to policy to politics goes back to the ballot box. So there's no way around that process. But I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, yeah, you could be. I could be too, which is why I question people. All you got to do is tell me what is the other way, because I think a lot of us get into a lot of situations, and a lot of it sounds good until it is questioned, and then we have to review. And then some folks, and I think this caller, yes, he was good because he, kept answering as he saw it. But some people get mad at you to even question them. They don't even want you to question them. Just wait a minute, I'm dealing in my divine wisdom. Don't question me. Well, I'm going to question you because I don't know that you in your divine wisdom. We are in a precarious situation, and we don't have time to not be sure of what we're doing and what works and what doesn't work. When you literally see people not being able to afford their life, there was a report out Thursday, 200,000 blacks, not 200,000 people, 200 black people moved out of New York and went back south because they can't afford to live in New York. The rents, the mortgages, the cost of living, too high. All of them, I think it was like 86% of the people polled that went back said that. That is why the affordability issue that was raised by this candidate resonated because of the cost of living. Well, a lot of the cost of living, that's why we're marching on Wall Street. A lot of the cost of living is because we have an administration that allows the private sector to do what it wants. There's no caps on that. There's no accountability on that. And rather than us, who are the ones who are subjected to the worst affordability, talking about that, we have others that will then come in and resonate because it makes sense what they're saying, even if they should not be the ones, or we don't feel they should be the only ones saying it.
Well, I think that's part of the problem. No doubt that the issue of affordability is one that resonates across the country, and I think it's one that Democrats on the whole should be talking about because it's the reason why people say they voted for Donald Trump. But I think how we deal with affordability is where some of us in the party have some concern with the assemblyman or concern with others who want to deal with it in such a way, but we have to deal with it. And quite frankly, while nobody retires and moves up north, so I appreciate those coming south, truth be told, the South is getting expensive too, Rev, so we're going to be priced out of America before we know it.
Yeah, I understand that to be true. All right, let me thank Antoine Seawright. Let me thank all of you that called in, listened in, called in and couldn't get through, but hung in there anyhow. Remember, whatever you do, wherever you go, however you feel, tell somebody, tell everybody, tell anybody Reverend Al told you personally, keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real. I'll talk to you tomorrow.